Good evening and welcome to Left, Right and Centre. I'm Vishnu Shom. As we conclude our broadcasting from the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, we've got two very special interviews for you. Very key news points emerging in an interview with the Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, who contradicts what the US President Donald Trump had said in November when he said that countries, including Pakistan, have been testing their nuclear devices. You'll find out what he says in just a moment, but we've also got an interview with the Israeli Economy Minister, Mr. Nir Barkat. It's an important interview because among many other points, including the situation in Iran, he refers to Pakistan and how Pakistani soldiers can never be a part of any transitional force in Gaza. At a time of great global uncertainty, the role of the International Atomic Energy Agency is of vital importance. Maintaining safety and monitoring the nuclear situation around the world from an industrial standpoint is something they look at very closely. Obviously, nuclear testing and safeguards over there, along with several agreements which already exist to ensure that the nuclear sphere is safe, is something that is very, very critical. It impacts billions of people across the world. We have a very special guest with us, the Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA. Thank you, sir, very much for being with us.
My pleasure.
There were strikes a couple of months back on Iranian nuclear reactors. Do you believe that those strikes have resulted in the end of the Iranian nuclear program?
No. I think, of course, this month of June, actually, there were a number of hits on Iranian nuclear facilities, not reactors particular, but important facilities connected with the enrichment program, for example, and other important technologies that were hosted there took place. And of course, after that, the IAEA has been trying to regain access to these facilities, because what has to be retained is that despite, of course, the fact that these facilities have been severely stricken and damaged, there is still some nuclear material in these places. The stockpile of highly enriched uranium at 60%, so quite close to military level, is still there. So we have been engaging with the Iranian government, so far without success, but still trying to return to these places so we can give the international community credible assurances that this material remains in peaceful purposes.
But you don't know where that material is, do we?
We do know.
Or you do know. And is it secure?
By and large, it is secure. It is basically at the same place where it was at the time of the attacks, but we haven't had physical access through our inspectors. We have observation of the sites, but we need to go and do a close check as per standard procedure for our kind of inspections.
Would it be a fair assessment that Iran's nuclear program to develop military-grade, nuclear material is just been delayed or postponed? It's not ended.
Well, in a certain sense, this is correct. It all depends. I mean, we cannot ascertain what is going to happen. What we can say is that, of course, once you acquire a certain technological level of expertise and knowledge, you have it. And enrichment equipment can be rebuilt in a relatively short period of time. So that is one point which is important, and Iran has said that they continue to have nuclear activities, and they will continue to do that. There's no problem with that, insofar as they do it in accordance with the Treaty on Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, their safeguards agreement with the IAEA, which, of course, requires access for the inspectors.
Sir, a couple of months back, Donald Trump, the US president, said that Russia, China, North Korea and Pakistan have conducted underground nuclear tests which are unknown to the public. Is this a fact?
There is no record of inspections. I don't know. I think, in general, political statements do happen, sometimes in response to other statements. So we do not, of course, base our activity on the basis of that. There hasn't been any nuclear test proper. What we have seen is testing an operation of means of delivery, which is a different thing from nuclear weapons, as you know.
So when the US president said, and I quote, "I don't want to be the only country that doesn't test," and of course he added that Russia's testing and China's testing, but they don't talk about it. He also added North Korea and Pakistan in the list of nations which are testing. And then he says, and let me quote this, "They don't go and tell you about it. As powerful as they are, this is a big world. You don't necessarily know where they're testing. They test way underground, where people don't know exactly what's happening with the test. You feel a little bit of a vibration." Have you been detecting vibrations?
Well, there is something which is called the International Monitoring System, which is administered by a sister organization, the Organization for the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty, located in Vienna also. And there hasn't been any record of nuclear explosions in this regard. But as I said, these things are part of political statements and also a reflection of the existent geopolitical tensions in our world.
So let me ask you a direct question. As you are aware, in May, there was an 88-hour war between India and Pakistan. The escalation matrix was quite high. At that stage, was the safety of Pakistan's nuclear weapons assured? Was there any movement that you detected?
There was no indication of any involvement of nuclear weapons in this conflict, which was, of course, of a conventional nature.
And sir, there was no evidence of nuclear testing in that period either in Pakistan?
No, not at all.
And there is an area called Kirana Hills in Pakistan, which is believed to be a Pakistani nuclear weapon storage site. And there were visuals of a strike, of a hit having taken place. Was that something that raised alarms at the IAEA?
Let me say that the activity of the IAEA is conducted in accordance with international treaties that countries accede to. We are not sort of a global universal nuclear police.
Right.
So, as you know, Pakistan or India have chosen not to join the NPT for other reasons that are of a more political or other nature. It's not part of our discussion today. But what I want to say is that they do not have safeguards agreements of this type, of a comprehensive type with the IAEA. There is some limited activity of the IAEA in both countries, but one which does not include the strategic programs that both countries have.
Just so that I understand that, the IAEA is configured to detect underground vibrations, which are even very small vibrations linked to possible nuclear tests.
So the IAEA does inspections, carries out inspections of nuclear facilities across the nuclear fuel cycle and nuclear reactors all over the world, laboratories, and so on and so forth. When it comes to nuclear testing, there is another, as I said, organization, the CTBTO in Vienna, that does specifically this work for a treaty, which is the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty, which is not enforced yet, but it is considered a global reference for the existence or otherwise of nuclear testing.
Is it your worry that America may test again? Donald Trump seems to have suggested that that's not ruled out.
There has been a moratorium, long-standing moratorium for quite a number of years. And while, of course, one would aspire that the international treaty would be in force, at the very least, this self-restraint by many countries in terms of nuclear testing would still continue, yes.
Sir, I also wanted to turn our attention on new technology. I think that's very important. Several countries around the world, including India, are looking at small modular reactors. What is the potential of these reactors going forward?
Well, this is one of the most important new trends that we see in nuclear engineering and technology. And it is very important because it means that apart from the traditional big nuclear reactors, we are going to have more nimble instruments, power generation, that are going to be, as the name says, modular in the sense that they can add capacity. We are talking about reactors that could go as high as 300 megawatts, but much less also. And that gives the opportunity to have deployments in remote areas, in areas that are not so close to established grids, or use them for specific purposes. So you have a very interesting combination here where you have technology that could serve, for example, to power zones that are, as I said, quite afar, or use it as, for example, we see now for specific industries like AI. For example, now there is a very, very intense interest, and more than interest, contracts are being signed by every of the known global brand in IT technologies, and I have in mind Microsoft, Meta, all of Google, all of them are signing up with nuclear vendors and contracts so they can have their own dedicated nuclear power reactors. As you know, AI data centers that are ruling our lives, I would say, in every sector of modern economies, like India, for example, require a lot of energy, are very energy power hungry. And so what this industry sees is that for it to be sustainable, for the growth which is projected, by year, we are adding consumption for AIs that is equivalent to a G7 country, for example, all right? Less than India, maybe, but very, very, very high. So these type of reactors are providing a very concrete solution. But interestingly, also for the Global South, it is very important for developing countries, because for many developing countries, reactors, big reactors like the fleet you have in India, are beyond their reach. And so now we see that in places in Africa or even in Asia, the possibility of having nuclear power is more concrete, more real than going into the effort of building these big facilities like the reactors we have in India.
One final question. Ukraine, unfortunately, since we spoke a year back, the war continues. And therefore, the danger presumably to nuclear facilities is very real, kinetic action on the ground. What are your latest observations about the relative safety of Ukrainian nuclear facilities, including, for example, Zaporizhzhia?
Well, this continues to be a source of enormous concern. Because Zaporizhzhia is in an active combat zone, is on the front line of the war, and military activity continues. I would even say it's redoubling these days, unfortunately, but this is the reality. So we are dealing with this situation every day. The IAEA has successfully brokered 4 localized ceasefires, which allowed repairs on the main lines feeding the plant and allowing it to perform essential functions for nuclear safety, like cooling, for example. That was not possible. So we see that, and coupled with that, the intense military activity in Ukraine proper, or in Ukrainian controlled territory, where electric substations are being hit, compromising also the normal functioning of the other. You know that pre-war Ukraine had 15 nuclear reactors. Now there are 9 left,
right.
Minus the 6 that are in Russian control at the moment. So this is really the lifeline of Ukraine. 70% of the energy that Ukraine still enjoys is coming from these reactors. So the IAEA has deployed in all of these places, not only in Zaporizhzhia. We are deployed in every nuclear facility in Ukraine in order to assess what is the situation, what are the changes in the operational regime of these plants to make sure that there is no accident.
So it's been wonderful speaking to you, and I appreciate your candor. These are times of great global stress, and let us hope that nuclear facilities remain safe as we continue to invest in a bright nuclear future, smarter technology, newer technology, but perhaps most importantly, safer technology. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much.